these are my two. These are my two children. So you've got Nato, who is the youngest. He is 18 months, and Jidenna is 4 years old. So a bit of background, as Louis said, I've published 3 books on womanhood, and I'll say a bit more about that at the end. And on my YouTube channel, Nissi Official, I talk about, well, I release my music, I talk about life, love, and relationships. Next slide. So when I was asked about this session, we agreed it would be nice to talk through the journey of dating to courtship to engagement to marriage. And for the purpose of this workshop, I'll give my explanation of what I perceive to be dating, what I perceive to be courtship, engagement, and marriage, because depending on who you talk to, they'll have different definitions. Now, dating for me is very fluid. I think you can date several people at one time. It's non-committal. It's essentially a friendship with an interest. I won't say friend with benefits, because we all know that's completely different. So it's just a friend that you might have an interest in, or you could meet online. So especially with online dating, you can meet several people, and it's just the getting to know each other phase. So the way this session is set up is I'm giving my tips on for each stage. So from what I've experienced, from what I've seen from other people, also through my YouTube channel, I get a lot of feedback in terms of how people are experiencing things, and drawing upon those different touch points, I've pulled together these tips. They're in no particular order, so it's not like number 1 is the most important. They're just generally, well, for each stage, this is what I think. And for dating, I think it's so important to know yourself first. And the reason why I think that's so important is because when you are dating and when you're putting yourself out there, it's a very vulnerable situation to be in. And if you don't know yourself enough, if you come up against somebody and they're saying, you know what, you're actually too fat for me, or you're too skinny for me, or you're too clever for me, or I don't like the job that you do, it can easily throw you off balance, and you can easily feel like you have to constantly change and reinvent yourself to attract people. And in case nobody's told you before, you are the prize, make no mistake. You are wonderfully and fearfully created by God, just as you are. And if you don't have confidence in that first, dating undoubtedly will knock all the confidence out of you, because it's not everybody that you're vulnerable with that will accept you for who you are. So know who you are first. And what I mean by that is know your likes, your dislikes, know your values, know what's important to you, know what's not important to you, and be very, very clear and have a conviction about it first. The second thing that I would say is date different types of men. Don't put yourself in a pigeonhole of, oh, I only date this kind of man, you know. So I'll give you an example. I know I really, really like musicians. I felt like I knew I would always marry a musician, and my husband is a musician. However, when I was dating, I had to test that hypothesis, because until you experiment with it, you don't really know it's a hypothesis. So I dated a doctor, I dated a basketballer, I dated an admin person, obviously not all at the same time. In my day, when I was dating 15 years ago, it wasn't as accepted as it is now. However, now you could date all of those people, and I think that's fine. But I wanted to test the hypothesis that actually the people that I vibe with the most are creative people. And now that I'm in my marriage, I'm confident that what I've got is what I need, because I eliminated the rest through trial and error. The third thing that I would say when you're dating is commit to no sex, because remember, you're just getting to know this person. It's not everybody that you meet and you start telling them your life history. So why do you think it's acceptable to bare your soul to them through having sex? So remember, it's just dating. I think sometimes, especially again in this day and age, you can be told, well, oh, if you're holding out for too long, if you're making a man wait for 3 months, 4 months, he's going to leave you. Fine, then let him leave. He's not the one for you. Because also, I always look at things from start to end. If the person that I'm with cannot hold themselves for a couple of months or a year or whatever it might be, how about when we get into marriage and we indefinitely come against those times where we are repulsed by each other, or where I've just given birth and we're not able to get intimate? How then are we going to cope? So if it's somebody who's like, you know, actually I don't want to continue having conversations with you if you're not going to sleep with me, well, fine, bye. I promise you there's a lot of men out there who, number one, believe the same thing, and number two, only respect women who have that same kind of thoughts. And that's who I would say you really need to be selective with being with. because of time, any questions about this initial step phase? I was going to leave all the questions to the end, but if there's any burning questions now, give me a shout.
I'm in my 20s and I'm single. Do you recommend we start dating now? Because I would love to be in a relationship in the future, but I'm not sure where to start. Could I talk to you privately maybe on a different chat?
Yep, so I put my email address at the end of this slide deck, so you can just ping me an email. I should have probably put my Twitter, my Insta handle on here, but definitely we can have a one-to-one. And I would say start dating now. There's nothing stopping you from start dating now. By your 20s, this is where I think African parents miss the mark a bit, because they put a lot of pressure. Once you hit your mid-20s, the pressure that you're going to have of, oh, you know, you're in your childbearing years, you've finished your degree, why are you not starting your family? It's not raining men, like it's really not like that. And if you haven't started, number one, exercising your muscles in how to talk to men, what you like, what you don't like. You don't want to be in a position where you're hitting a certain age and you're feeling the pressure, I'm just going to marry this person because I've left it too late. Your 20s is the absolute perfect time to start dating and experimenting.
Okay, so I mean, I I don't know what type I like. Do I what I mean? Is there do I have to marry a man who's different to me? Because I don't mind dating older men, but
Exactly.
but I've never been dating before.
So
Um,
assume you like everybody until you start eliminating. So that's what I was saying in terms of try the different types. So as far as you're at now, you like everyone until you've tested and seen actually, no, actually, maybe I thought I liked older men, but if he's more than 10 years older than me, I don't really like it, you know. But until you experiment and you test that, you won't know. And nobody can advise you on that. It's something that you just have to go out there. And remember, dating is just having conversations. So it's just having conversations with these different people. So it's safe and it's low risk because you're just having a conversation. You're just seeing if there's any chance of there being a connection, you know?
okay.
Anybody else have a question on that? And
Can,
maybe we could move to the
can,
next topic.
can I get the information at the end, or maybe just message me privately on Zoom, just your social media handle, and just I want to talk
Okay,
more.
what I'll do, Natasha, is I've just put my email in the chat. So if you message me after, and then I'll get you my number across, and then we can start the conversation. Well, actually, what I probably could do is just put my number in there. Sorry.
Yeah, please. That'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
No worries.
I'll be in touch with you very soon.
Pleasure.
How
Any
many
questions?
do you want to take per thing? Should we say like 2 or 3 questions?
Yeah, I think 2 or 3 will be good.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll move on. So next slide, please. Okay, so courting. So let's go on the journey. You've had conversations with a variety of different people, and you've met somebody that you think, actually, you know what, I really, really like you. And I think this could go somewhere. And I want us to have a verbal commitment. We're not yet engaged, but we're saying, you know what, we're on the journey to getting married. And the aim is to get married. But I'm still wanting to feel you out. I still want to see exactly where we're going here. So courting is having a relationship with somebody with the intention of marriage. So it's like, so say dating is ground 0, courting is like, say, ground 3. Yeah. And this is in a 10-stop scale. So during this time, get to know the family history. And the reason why I've put this here and not on while you're engaged is because even though a broken engagement is better than a broken marriage, you still don't want to have a broken engagement. So you want to make sure that you know as much as possible before you've made that commitment to say, actually, I'm going to marry you, and you're announcing to the world that we are engaged. So get to know the family history. I know in sometimes in African circles, it's a bit of a taboo, like knowing the medical history, but you need to know it. It's not just for your own sake, but for your children's sake. And it's not because you're going to say, oh, if I don't know, if this person has I don't know, diabetes in the family, I'm not going to marry them. No, it's just so that you're equipped with the knowledge and you're preparing yourself. You then start doing some research on diabetes. What kind of diets are better? So that you start the transition. So it's not to eliminate anybody. It's just to make sure that you are equipping yourself for what is to come. The second thing is start having the conversation. Did somebody, or was that feedback? Okay. The second thing is have conversations about finances, children, etc. If you're going to commit to marry somebody, and if you're going to accept an engagement ring from somebody, before that time, you should know what their stance is on finances. You should know what their stances are in children. I get so amazed when people are married and they're like, oh, I just found out my husband doesn't want kids. What exactly were you talking about the whole time you guys were together and you were dating? What did you think life was going to be? Don't assume you know anything. Get definitive answers to these questions. And a way to do it, which is like not so like interview like, is just ask your partner about the vision for the future. You know, do they see kids in the future? What type of house do they want to live in? Because also some people are like really modest and they want a really humble living. Other people want to live lavish, and it's like, you know what, I've worked too hard to be on a tight budget like that. And you don't want to at engagement stage find out you're completely incompatible in those arenas. The third thing that I would say is this is the time to start agreeing boundaries when it comes to family, especially within the African setting. And especially, I know as Zambians, we're very, very keen on respect and what respect looks like. And you want to make sure that your significant other is okay with the different things that we're talking about in terms of respect. So, you know, things like our family are going to sleep over. What say will your mum and your in-laws have in the way that you run your house? You also want to find out here if your husband is strong enough to stand up for you and to talk on your behalf, because you don't want somebody who is so ruled by their family that it's like you're literally there's, I don't know, 25 of you physically in the marriage. Yes, we know spiritually you're marrying two families and culturally, but that's different from day to day, your mother-in-law dictating what you eat in the house, how you decorate the house, how you raise the children. You know, there's a distinction. And for everybody, where that distinction lies is different. So you want to find out if you guys are compatible on that phase, so that by the end of the courting phase, you should know your person so well that if it's like, if we got married tomorrow, or if we got engaged tomorrow and got married next week, everything should be fine. If you have any doubts and any question, that courtship should then end, because then you've decided that actually you're compatible for marriage and you won't be going on to engagement. Any questions about courting? No? Okay, if we jump to engagement. So engagement is usually where everybody is really excited. This is when you start announcing to the world your intention. So whereas courtship is more intimate and internal, so it might just be you and the person know that you're courting. Engagement is you're announcing it to the world. This is the person that I'm planning to marry, and we've made the decision now that we are going forward to the path of marriage, and we are preparing for that marriage ceremony. So the first thing that I would say is a broken engagement is better than a broken marriage. If at this point you find out anything that's a deal breaker, cut it off. Do not ignore red flags. Do not explain red flags. You cut it off. The second thing that I would say is you have to choose your battles. During engagement, well, during the engagement period, all the pride, all the unlived dreams of like the mums, the dads, the family, like what they wanted to see for their own marriages, these will come out. And it's not everything you have to fight against. As much as possible, you want to keep the peace during your engagement period, and trust and believe that that peace will be challenged on multiple different fronts. So really do choose your battles, and above all, choose your peace in this rocky road. The third thing that I would say is start as you wish to end. So in terms of submission to your husband, don't think, oh, once we get married, then I'll start piping down. No, start piping down now and start choosing. And this is the link to your choosing your battles. You want to start showing your husband that I respect you as the leader of my heart and of this household, even though it's just the two of you. You want to start showing it now, and you want to start exercising it now. Also, because you'll be on show a lot more to your own parents and to their parents. And this is not about doing things to please anybody. No, it's not about that. It's just about being the best wife that you can be. And I want to believe that everybody on this call believes in the biblical standard of womanhood. And that biblical standard of womanhood is submission. And remember, submission is strength under control. So it's not that to say that you're weak, but it's understanding how you strategically apply that strength. Exploding on everybody and anybody is not going to help you. And actually, it just makes you look bad. So start exercising that patience, that some might call it long suffering. You know, sometimes, you know, for me, keeping quiet was long suffering for me, because I was one of those people that had to just say what was on my mind at every point. So don't necessarily think that long suffering has to be some big thing. Sometimes controlling your tongue and learning that, you want to get that down packed before you're married, because marriage, remember, spiritually as well, there's definitely a force against marriage. And so you want to make sure that you're equipped, just like we put on the army of the what do they call it, the armor for battle, spiritually. You want to be putting that on before you're married. And the fourth thing is, you want to agree the vision for your family, because you might be thinking, as soon as we get married, we're going to start trying for kids. And your husband might be thinking, okay, as soon as we get married, we're going to start saving for a house. Start agreeing that up front, so that as you're entering into that marriage journey, you know you're both on the same page for what the next 1 year looks like, 3 year looks like, 5 years looks like. Any questions about that?
I've got a question. So in terms of like red flags, you mentioned red flags. What would you say are some red flags? Because I think nowadays people have red flags for everything. And I know I've spoken to some people who are married, and they're like, sometimes those red flags are just an amber flag. Like maybe you can talk it through or work it out. So maybe clarifying what is a red flag and what is like an amber flag that can be worked on.
Yeah, I would say a red flag is watch how your spouse and the family behave during that engagement period. I've heard of absolute disrespect, as in like the in-law, as in the mother-in-law telling the wife to shut up, and shutting the wife down, and the husband being there and not saying anything. In my family, shut up was the height of disrespect. Like, it's not a word that you just say to anybody just like that. And remember, your mother-in-law will become your mum. I say it's your mother in love. So if this is how she's treating you, for me, that's a red flag. And your husband is seeing that. And I'm not saying your husband has to be disrespectful in front of everybody, tell his mum, you don't talk to my wife like that. No, he can take the mum aside and be like, look, I didn't appreciate, after, you know, once it's died down, please, this is my wife, and you know, I want you to talk to her the way that you talk to me. Don't distinguish. And he can say that to her in private. It doesn't have to be on show in front of you. But if your husband to be turns around and is like, well, that's how just my mum behaves, she's allowed to talk to you however, that's my mum. Okay. Because in marriage, any sort of anything that you see will be amplified. So if you think that shut up is disrespect, you can bet your bottom £1 that in marriage, it will be a lot more than shut up, and it will be way more disrespectful than that. And for me, that's a deal breaker. I don't want to live in a house where I feel like I'm a prisoner. An amber flag is how your husband to be deals with pressure. So we know around the engagement, people get really uptight and they get a bit aggy. That's fine. If he starts shouting recklessly, losing his temper out of control, pull him up on it. Again, it doesn't have to be something around everybody. You pull him up on it. And if he continues, that's when it goes from amber to red, you know, because in marriage, you're going to have situations that are way more stressful than engagement. And do you want your husband to be blowing the gasket anytime life isn't going his way or when pressure is too much? So you want it, yes, we'll all, I don't know, come out of our best selves every so often, but it should be that the person that you're with is able to pull you back in line. You know, okay, this is stressful, it's fine, let's calm down, let's get through it. And if still that doesn't work, that's when it goes from amber to red. What if spouse is violent towards you? Should you end it? Yeah, any violence before marriage, even after marriage, is terrible. But obviously now you're married, so it's a lot more complicated to get out of. And eventually I would say yes, you'd get out of it. But in engagement, any sort of physical violence is a deal breaker. There's no explanation. There's no, oh, but deal breaker.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
What if you can't agree on the reason for your family? Do you end it there?
What if what? Sorry?
If you don't agree with on the vision, do you end it there, or do you keep going?
I didn't hear the first part. If your family...
No, what if you can't agree?
Oh, if you can't agree, yeah. How can two walk together if they don't agree? The Bible even says it. So you just end it.
Oh, oh yeah.
Yeah. So let's go on to the final bit, and this is marriage.
Can I just ask a question quickly before you move on?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted you to go into submission and how you can explain how submission looks like now. Because I think the question that was asked about red flags and submission are quite linked, in the sense that there is a submission that we teach in our African culture or Zambian culture, which loses the young woman to interpret it as in yes sir, no sir kind of thing, where everything is yes ma'am, so that you can get married. Because sometimes we perceive marriage as a privilege, you know, like as a woman, if you're not married, then you're not privileged, but if you're married, then you're privileged. And hence people just, you know, deal with stuff without thinking about it. So can you just get into what does submission look like the healthy submission, the God submission?
Yeah. So healthy submission, I always summarize it as strength under control. We've got some powerful, powerful women in the Bible, and I wish I would have done some notes on this, but obviously because of time, I couldn't go into everything. But what you've got to remember is when we look at submission, we've got to look at God's initial design for the family. So you had man and wife, and he told both man and wife to have dominion over the earth and creatures. It wasn't one or the other, it was both of them. However, he defined us distinctly. So there's areas that a man is able to lead and he's great in, and there's areas that a woman is able to lead and be great in. So the easiest way I can describe godly submission is your husband should love you with all your strength and all your qualities, right? So whether you are an extrovert, an introvert, whether you are a doctor or you've got a very high powered job, you should be able to flourish in that. You should never feel like you have to dim your light in order to appease the people around you. However, there's a time and a place to talk and to assert your strength and your opinion. So I think especially in the Zambian context, I think our West African brothers and sisters are a lot more, I don't know, a lot more flexible with this. But in the way that I correct my husband, of course I'm allowed to correct him, but am I going to do it in a room full of people and show him up? No, I'm not going to do that. In the same way, my husband knows that he's able to correct me and pull me up on things, but is he going to do that in a room full of people and embarrass me and show me up? No, he's not. When it comes to finances and leading our household, yes, my husband has the final say, and he's the leader of our house, so he'll set that direction. But do I feed into the strategy? Of course. Am I able to tell him, oh, I know you're thinking about, I don't know, maybe doing our finances this way, but how about if we use this different strategy? And he'll listen and he'll take that into account. So for me, that submission is just knowing when to speak and knowing when not to, and knowing how to put it across as well. And this is my final point about submission. One, I'm still on the journey of learning submission, and I think we all are. I don't think you ever come to a point of arriving. But my husband always used to say to me, Nissa, you say great things, but sometimes the tone in which you say it and the arena you choose to say it loses its power. And so then I'm less likely to listen. You sometimes, especially if you know, like I'm heated up, as in he's heated up.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. That's why I was being quite pushy about the time, but we have 15 minutes left. So Nissi, yeah, do carry on and I'll bring up everything again. Okay.
It's really humbling, you know. You're talking and then it just cuts. Wow.
Can you share the PowerPoint to us, please, Zoe?
Sorry?
Can you send the PowerPoint to us to
That's up to Nissy. Nissy, can we share?
Yeah, sure you can. The slides. Yeah, I think it's the next slide that we were on.
Okay.
So yeah, that's my take on submission. I think submission goes wrong when we marry into families that are not accepting of like our natural personalities. So some men just don't like women that talk that much. Some men just don't like women that have as strong opinions, and then every time you try and talk, it becomes, oh, my wife is becoming disrespectful. And so that's why you need to make sure that when you're courting and when you're accepting a proposal, you make sure you're compatible, because even though yes, we can channel when we're talking and when we're falling back, and how we allow our husbands to lead, if you're just fundamentally compatible on a personality level, problems. Another problem comes when you don't actually respect your husband and you don't want him to lead. So then in everything, you're pushing. Again, you shouldn't have accepted a proposal from that person. So submission should be something that you're happy to do. You're happy to let your husband lead because you completely and wholly trust him to be the leader of your household. It becomes an issue when that's not there. That has to be the foundation. Any questions about that?
How do you encourage that in like the previous stages? How do you encourage like leadership in like courtship? How do you encourage that?
I think you'll be able to see, because you'll be, number one, I think it's a personal reflection when you're dating somebody. So Chinyanta, I think, might know this, but when I started dating Chuka, I just instantly respected him. There was just something different about him. I didn't feel like I had to argue my point and assert myself with everything that he said, because I genuinely trusted his discernment. I really did believe he was a man of God. And that came through just our conversations whilst we were being friends. I think really do pray and ask the Holy Spirit to guide you, but intuitively you'll know, and you'll know when you don't respect somebody, because either you'll actually be talking back, or mentally you'll be thinking, oh, this one is talking rubbish again. You know when you respect somebody and when you don't.
Oh, Nissy, by the way, thank you for that answer. There's also a couple of other questions in the chat. So there's one from Bibusa saying, how do you maneuver the two families with all their wonderful opinions and differences? How was your process of the two families coming together, especially culturally?
Yeah, it was interesting. So I'm Zambian, Bemba, and Chuka is Igbo, Nigerian, and the gap in the culture was really big. Actually, shameless plug, if you go to my YouTube channel, I've done lots of videos about this. I won't go into too much detail, but you've, number one, got to respect the process. It's not overnight that the cultures are going to get it. I'll give you an example. So at the kitchen party, my sister-in-law wanted me to invite like children, like make it open to kids, and I was like, well, my mum is saying, like, in the way that a kitchen party is done, it's not a place for children to come and play. It's serious business. And at the point of the wedding, we had to just agree to disagree. And it wasn't something that we dwelt on. However, over the years, and as they've been exposed to more of my family, and as they've been exposed to more of Zambian culture, so 2 years ago they traveled to Zambia. Now they get it and they understand. So I think it's exercising that grace and understanding that it's not everything that they're going to accept up front. However, they don't have to get it, but they do need to respect it. Now, it's this matter of disrespect. If they're choosing to disrespect everything, again, that's when you got to question yourself. Do you really want to marry into a family where if you have a difference of opinion, it becomes we now can't respect each other? There's some people that are like that and they're fine and they can cope, but you've got to now decide, is that you? In the same way, they've had to get to know and get to understand. I've had to learn their way of doing things, i.e., when you go to their house, you can go into the parents' bedroom, you can sit on the parents' bed, and that just screamed against everything that I was taught when I was younger about like the marital bed and the bedroom, you know, kind of being a sanctuary. However, when I'm around them, when you're in Rome, you act like you're with the Romans. So I won't disrespect them in the moment. And if all the women are gathered in the bedroom, sure, I'll go. You know, what does it cost me to go and sit where all the other women are sitting? It would be more disrespectful to me to put my foot down and be like, no, I'm going to sit in the living room with all the men because that's how I'm used to things. So everybody's just got to exercise grace and just understand over the years, it will get better and easier.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so these last points are quite self-explanatory. And so this is about marriage. And number one, the point on there is respect your body clock. And the reason why I put this on there is because I know modern science wants us to believe that you can have babies up until the age of 70, which you can. It's, do you want to have a baby at the age of 70, you know? So this will look different to different people. But what I would say is that I think infertility rates are at an all-time high. And it's just, you have to equip yourself with the knowledge. So fine, if you want to delay having children to later in life, then also start looking into things like freezing your eggs. Just make sure you're equipped to be making the decision that is right for you. Don't have your head in the clouds and think, oh, us Zambians, we like to have big hips. You know, oh, I've got big hips, I'll be able to have a baby miraculously any age I choose. No, no. Respect your body, respect the science. If you want a child young, that's fine, that's good. If you want a child older, okay, that's what suits you, but just make sure that you've made arrangements for that so that if it doesn't happen miraculously, you've got science on your side and you have frozen some healthy eggs and you've taken the steps that you're able to do it in alternative ways. The next thing I would say is be attentive to your husband. So it's very easy to, I think somebody mentioned earlier in the call, people treat like marriage as the prize and then they get married and everything that they lavished on their husband becomes like, oh, well, we're married now, you know, that we've just, this is life, how can you expect me? Don't don't do that. Treat your husband in the same way that you used to exert yourself and go above and beyond during dating. Still do it when you're married, and he should still be doing the same for you. Number three is be attentive to yourself, stay in shape. And what in shape means for you is what in shape means for you. So it's not like everybody has to be a size 10, everybody has to be a size 14. Nothing like that. You know how you feel your best, and you know when you feel your sexiest, and you know when you feel more empowered. Make sure you are keeping yourself in that state. Do not allow yourselves to get to the point where you're just so like, oh, I'm a wife now, I'm a mom, I don't love myself anymore. You have to be proactive in ensuring you do not get to that point. If you just let life happen, you'll find that you've just found yourself in this state of complete disarray. And number four, and this is the last point for everything, but it's be the prayer pillar for your family. So women, there's something powerful about when we as women pray and when we come together with other women that pray. And do not lose that when you get married. Again, it's the whole treating marriage like a prize. Don't see it as, oh, now I'm married, I don't need to pray as much, I don't need to spend as much time with God. You need to spend more time, because the devil is going to come against you, he's going to come against your family, and never forget that. Do not be afraid of it, because remember, we are more than conquerors through Jesus Christ, but do not become complacent. You need to absolutely make prayer a priority in your life, no matter how busy it gets. Every single second, I like to stay in a state of prayer, you know, meditating on God's word just in your heart. You don't need to make a whole big show and dance and start casting and binding and shouting every morning and every night, but you know, it's in our hearts. Make sure you're reading your Bible and you're able to meditate on that word of God continually. Any questions about those points?
No questions, Missy. I was just saying, preach, girl. Some good words there. I mean, you honestly, I think the things that you've said today just resonate a lot. And thank you.
Can you share your presentation with us, Missy?
Yeah, I'll get Louis to share it. I've sent it to Louis. So Louis, do we have everybody's contact details? How's that going to work?
I can put the link in. I can download it, but I can put the link in here as well. They can have access.
Oh yeah. So they can do that. Yeah, because I've made it. Anybody with the link can view. So
okay, fab.
You'll have access. You'll notice in the beginning of the session, I said that I'd written 3 books, and I just wanted to talk about those quickly. So I talk about and I speak about and I sing about that journey through womanhood. I'm always fascinated by the human experience. And then obviously, because I'm Black, because I'm Zambian, because I've been raised in the UK, you've got all those different intersections. So those come across in my writing. How did your husband feel about paying the bride price? Fine, because it's a Nigerian custom as well. I find it's more if you're marrying somebody from the Caribbean or from England, they don't really believe in bride price. But you get people that are flexible. So I know people who have married Englishmen and it hasn't been a problem. Just be upfront and state it. Don't let it be they're only finding about it at the introductions. Prep them for this kind of thing. So yes, so these are the 3 books, and I'm doing an offer for ZOCF. So it's 3 books for £10. Finding Me is it's a collection of personal poetry because I started writing it when I was a teenager in university, and I wasn't actually planning to publish them. But when I saw the transition of who I'd become during uni, I was proud of myself, and I was happy that I was able to go from a complete state of like insecurity and constantly questioning who I am and questioning my thoughts and questioning what's going on in the world. And I just had so many questions about like life and family and God. And so you see me battle with those questions through poetry and blog posts in Finding Me. Beautiful, I wrote after I'd won Miss Southern Africa, and this is just about the biblical view of beauty. You'll have some Christians that will tell you you need to look like a backside in order to be like a holy woman. I do not believe in that. I believe you can look absolutely gorgeous and you can be full of beauty internally and externally. They're not mutually exclusive. Yep, if you want to buy it on Kindle, yeah, just go to the Amazon store and you can get it there. Otherwise, if you want, but then I think they're like $6.99, $7.99 each online. But if you message me, then I'll send you the PDFs, and then for the bundle it's £10. Then finally, life lessons from dad. For those of you that don't know, I actually lost my dad last year, so this book even means a lot more to me now because of that. But growing up, my dad and I were very, very close, and he was always very open, and he taught me so much about like my sense and my self-worth as a woman, what I mean as a mom, wife, sister, everything else in between. And so I share those lessons in this book. And actually, I really thank God the foreword is written by my dad. So it's like, even though he's passed on now, those lessons and his words will forever live on in these books. Any questions about any of that?
Sorry, Lou, just to let you know, you've got just over a minute left. So, yeah.
Okay.
Well, thankfully I've finished talking this time, so I won't get cut off.
Yeah, no, Nisi, thank you so much. I think we've learned a lot, and we can always do a part 2, guys. But yeah, now you know who Nisi is. You can find her on Instagram. You can go into our Instagram as well. We've tagged her on there, and we can keep in contact. And she also has a YouTube channel, so you can check her out on there. But yeah, generally relationships is a big deal. So we want to be able to give advice where we can from people who have lived that experience and who are open enough to talk about things that people don't normally talk about. So thank you so much, Nisi. And I'll see you guys in the main conversation. Okay, bye.
I'll stay in the call.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Fantastic. Thank